Hey everyone, it's Deja from Crochet Ever After. Today we're going to do the Billow Cowl. I'm not actually going to make the entire cowl, I'm just going to show you the pattern repeat because it's really simple once you know what to do to go ahead and finish off your cowl. It's going to take some bulky weight yarn and an 8mm USL hook. You can download the pattern in the link below and we will get started. Okay, so to start off our cowl, we're going to make a long tail so that way we can sew up the cowl at the very end. So do like 24 inches, that should be good enough to be able to have enough to sew. And then we're going to put a slip knot on our hook, so turn down and reach through, pull that tight. And we're going to start off, you're going to make 63 chains. I'm going to do 18 just to have a smaller section to show you. So just do the chains the same way I do, but you're going to make instead 63 instead of 18. So we always yarn over from back to front, turn that hook down to get through our stitches nice and easy, and then push it to our shaft. So we pull and push and pull and push. And you're going to do that for 63 chains. If you know how to foundation single crochet, you can do that instead, and you'll do 62 of those. So you can check out my foundation single crochet video if you are wanting to try that out. It's an easy edge, it makes it look really nice, and it's just a cool little edge. So let me see how many I have. I can either count the V's, so it looks like the letter V stacked on top of each other, or I can do these back loops, whichever is easier for you to count. For me, either way is fine. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We have 4 more. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right. This yarn is twisting on itself a lot. One thing, if you have yarn that twists on itself, so you can see that my yarn is doing this, it's good and it's bad. It's horrible to work with because you're constantly fighting the yarn, but it's actually good for your project because what's happening is you're adding kind of a ply to your yarn, so in the end it's not gonna pill as bad. So crochet tends to do that to some of these yarns. Most yarns are kind of made for knitting, so when you start crocheting with it, it might twist on itself. So it's a pain, but take heed in knowing that it's twisting it up even more to make it even more plied for when you're working it, and you kind of get a little bit tougher yarn out of it. So always good with bad, you know? All right, this yarn is crazy because it is a double color, so my chain is very difficult to make out, especially if you're like a new person. So it takes a little extra when you're working stuff like this, but don't give up. You can do it. Just find where those V's are, and you'll see the back side. It looks cool. It looks like a rope almost because of all these different colors, but you can definitely see the difference. This has little dashes, which is our bottom bump, and then the front look like the V's. So I'm just going to go ahead and work into the back loop for my first row. You can do the back loop or you can do the bottom bump. So if you haven't done the bottom bump before, check out my bottom bump video. It creates a really nice edge. So if you want that V, if you like this V and you want it at the bottom of the cowl, so it's the edge of it, work into the bottom bump. But for right now, we're going to do the back loop just to give you options. So we don't count this loop on my hook. This chain is all wonky. I'm going to fix this chain. It's like twisted. I have twisted chain videos too, if you need that. If your chain looks crazy and you don't know why, check out my twisted chain video and it will tell you why. But we're going to go ahead and skip this first chain. So for row 1, we're just single crocheting. So to do that, we skip the first chain and we start working into the second chain. So I just insert my hook in that back loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. Okay, then we're going to work into our next chain. do another single crochet in the next one. So as you're working, if you put your work down, you pick it back up and you're like, where is my next chain? Just kind of look at the stitches you've made, pull on it. It helps to create like a big hole because then you know that this one's been worked into, so you look for the next one after. Pull your stitches apart sometimes. It makes it a lot easier to see what's going on. So you're going to have 62, so you see all this twisting. You just kind of, I run my fingers along it, so you can see it's a lot more twisted here. But you're going to do 62 single crochets while I finish my 17, and then we will come back and work row 2. Last stitch of row 1. I almost said round, this one, my row sounded weird. Okay, now we're gonna do row 2. So to start it off, we're gonna chain 3. And this chain 3 is gonna count as a double crochet. You can always do a tall chain with the double crochet. If you watch my videos, you know what that is. If you don't, check out my eliminating gaps from your turning chain video. This one will work because we're not putting any double crochets next to it. That's why I'm just going with the chain 3, because we're going to be skipping some stitches to start making some like V-shape stitches. So I'm skipping the next 2 stitches, and we're technically skipping 3 stitches because this first one, nothing's happening with it. This chain 3 is, it's technically a double crochet, so it means that that would take the place of anything being worked into this first stitch. So in the pattern, it says skip the next 2 stitches, which will be these 2 over here. If we turn it sideways, this stitch and this stitch. But we're also not working into this very first stitch because this chain 3 counts as that first stitch. So make sure that when you're skipping the next 2 stitches that you're counting this as the stitch belonging to this chain 3 and then skipping 2 and then working into that stitch there, which is technically the 4th stitch of the row. So now we're going to do our little V stitch. So it's going to be all in this stitch here, 2 double crochets, a chain 1, and then 2 more double crochets. So we yarn over, insert our hook in, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, and pull through the second 2. This yarn is twisting like crazy. So again, I do another one, then I'm going to chain 1, then I'm going to do another 2 double crochets all in that same spot. I try to like let the twist go in. You'll see I have one right here where it's like kind of twisted on itself, but once I work into these stitches, like it's not going to be as noticeable. But I try to work those twists in because that's what's making the yarn stronger. You don't want to just keep like pushing it out and pushing it out, like actually let it kind of work into your stitches. All right, so I got 3 so far, so you can count those nice and easy. You can see 1, 2, 3. Need 1 more. Our hole's nice and big, so it fits everything. You can see it. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to skip 4 stitches, which kind of is like the place of these 2 double crochets and then 2 double crochets on the other side. So to do that, if you're not used to reading your stitches or knowing what stitch is what, you can pull apart and look for nice big holes. So that's 1 stitch, 2 stitch, 3 stitch, 4 stitch, then I work over here. Or you can look at the tops. This yarn is a little bit more difficult to make out, but you can see that V here, and there's 2, 3, 4, and then here's 5. So the 5th stitch, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do a double crochet, a chain 1, and then 2 more double crochets. So this fan is pulling across. There's nothing in between. It's just pulling it over here to the next stitch, and then we're doing the same thing. Okay, then I skip another 4, and I'm working here, and I'm almost at the end of my row. So you should have 3 stitches left over after working your last fan. And that's going to be a mirror of the beginning of the row. So you're gonna skip 2, just like we did at the beginning, and then you're going to double crochet in this last stitch as your final stitch place. So notice I'm only grabbing one loop. I'm not doing that on purpose. I just keep missing the other one. Come here. There we go. All right. Now we have our first set of fans. And we're just going to keep on building on those. It's going to be a really easy pattern. All right, so now for our next round, it's basically the same thing, except instead of working into single crochets, we're now working into this chain 1 space. So we're going to chain 3 again, and then we're going to do our fan right in that chain 1 space. So we just skip everything and go straight to that chain 1 space. And then we skip everything after that and go to the next chain 1 space. All these twists, and my tail's in there too. Oy, oy, oy. Should have made this tail shorter for my little purposes, but I wanted to show you kind of how much tail to pull out for sewing. You could also, if you wanted to, do the long tail at the end. So if you don't like having the long tail in your way when you're making this, you can always wait till the end and fasten off with a really long tail for sewing, either way. But we're almost at the end here. So again, we do another fan in the next chain 1 space. And then at the very end, we're going to do a double crochet, and we're doing it in the top of our chain 3, because remember we're chaining 3 at the beginning of the row, so we don't want to go into this space and do it because it can make it look a little funny along your edge. So instead you're going to catch a loop at the top of your chain 3. So we have 1 chain, 2 chain, 3 chain, and do our double crochet there. And now we have our stacked V's. The whole pattern is like that. It's just going to keep doing the chain 3 and then the fans in the fans and the double crochet at the end. So I'm just going to do the very last row, which is going to be even easier. It's just single crochet. So I chain 1, and then I'm going to single crochet in each of the stitches that I come to, and then with the chain 1, I'm just going to go around the chain 1. So this is my chain 1 right there, so I'm just going to go around it through the big hole, and then we keep going. So this cowl, you can, the yarn that it was made in the pattern, the Ariosa, which is really soft, it's a lovely yarn, I love it so much. It is a small yardage, so I got 10 rows out of it total, so not 10 shells or 10 of these, just 10 rows total. But if you have a different yarn, like if you're using this yarn that's here, this is the loops and threads facets, it has more yardage, so you can get more out of it. Make sure that you're not going into this big hole. That's not a chain space, that's just the space between the 2 fans, just a little pointer. If you have more yarn, you can make it even taller. I like tall cowls. I like skinny, tall cowls that stand up on their own, especially now living on the East Coast when my nose gets so cold when it's cold outside, so I like to have it above my nose. And with this is kind of cool because it's got little air holes, so you can breathe a little easier, but you still have enough coverage that it should hopefully keep your nose warm. So if I needed to or wanted to, I can make it taller using a different yarn. Or I could even make this into a scarf. So if you did the 17 chains, if you got this same yarn in 17 chains or match the gauge, this would make a great scarf. If you just keep on going and building and building and building until you have it as long as you want, you can also make this into a scarf. So lots of different stuff. So again, with the end of the row and you have the chain 3, just work into that top chain 3 for your last single crochet. And then after that you would fasten off, and then you're going to join it with the mattress stitch. So I have a tutorial for the mattress stitch. It's a very easy join that creates an invisible seam pretty much it's going to butt up so there's no seam poking you in your neck or anything. It's very easy to do. But that is going to be the Billow Cowl. This is the basic stitch pattern for it, and you can customize it in many different ways. If you want to make it even bigger, so if you wanted to make the circumference of it bigger, if you want to make like an infinity scarf out of it, you're going to add stitches in multiples of 5. So just add 5 to the chain for as long as you want. So for example, we chain 63, so you would go 68, 73, 78, you know, just even multiples of 10 would be a little bit easier to count, but multiples of 5, just add 5 as you go, big as you want, and you're all set. But that's the Billow Cowl. If you have any questions, leave them below. Share pictures with me. Head to my Facebook page, Crochet Ever After, and show me your finished objects. I would love to see them, and thank you for watching.